Hey folks, I'm Dewan Moore, illustrator and artist, and it's Thursday morning here. Where I left you last time, I think I was just coming to some kind of decision or conclusion about what I wanted to do for this exhibition that I have to do in October. I've spent the last couple of days researching, looking at artists I'm interested in and maybe some possible themes. So despite an indecisive start, I think I know what I'm doing now, so this video is all about that, about producing a proof of concept for the exhibition. So I did this drawing about 2 years ago now, probably as some form of procrastination before getting on to a bigger job that I was supposed to do, or an illustration commission. And normally when I do these sort of drawings, they don't go much further than a pencil drawing that normally I throw away or spill tea on it and it ends up ruined anyway. But this one, I kind of liked the composition, so I went over it with ink, and you know, it's on quite kind of a hard surface, so rather than just regular paper. And it was just pinned to my wall in the studio here for a long time, and I kept looking at it, and I thought, you know what, I'm not going to sell it, but I kind of like it, so I'm going to stick it in a frame and have it on the wall. And I like it because it poses a lot of questions. It's not a particularly exciting image. It's essentially a fellow with a sword and a helmet and a shield just walking down a hill in a weirdly cloudy day with some thunder in the distance. But for me, it creates a lot of questions. It's like, where did he come from? Where's he going? What's his story? And while I've been thinking about this exhibition, I've found myself coming back to this image quite a lot. So I think I'm going to use it as kind of my starting point for this whole thing. I like the idea of somebody on a journey. You know, perhaps they're going off to a battle. Perhaps they're coming back from a battle. Perhaps they've deserted whatever it was that they were looking for. You know, I'm going to try and answer some of these questions, but you know, for now, this is going to be my starting point. And I think though this is going to be a world building exercise and an exhibition, I think I'm going to frame it kind of around a central character, kind of an everyman, if you like. But for now, you know, this guy's my starting point. So I'm going to redesign him to begin with and make sure I'm happy with how he fits into the narrative. As this will be, I assume, I hope, how we will see this world. We will see it through his point of view and his journey through it. Okay, so right, let's get to it. Okay, so full disclosure, I did a fair bit of concept work on this character before I started this drawing, but given that this video is probably edging towards 20 minutes, I will put that stuff in the next video, I think, because that's more to do with concepts. So what do I want to achieve with this drawing, painting that I'm doing? Well, it's got to serve a couple of purposes. I want to get the feel of what it is I'm trying to say in this exhibition across, even though I'm under no illusions that the artwork may or may not appear in the exhibition. That's okay. It's really just a test to see if it works. Another thing that I'd like to do with it is I haven't actually painted anything for quite a while. You know, the last painting I did was for this channel. So this is something I really need to get my head around, sort of try and remember how to actually do it, because skills do atrophy. The other thing I wanted to test was, given that I teach an awful lot of the time, way more than I did the last time I did an exhibition, I want to see how easy it is for me to work in between my teaching jobs. So the drawing was quite an enjoyable process, and I'm actually quite pleased with the drawing once it's finished. So I feel quite confident taking it into the painting stage. Alright, so I have done my drawing. Here it is. And now I'm going to paint it. This is going to be like a good proof of concept for or what I think the exhibition's going to be. So, because I am short on materials, I feel like I say that in every video, but yeah, I really need to get some more materials in. Plenty of paintbrushes, not so much paint. So, because this is just really a proof of concept, rather than use some primed gesso board that I usually use, that, you know, as you've seen in the previous video, it takes a while to make. I'm going to use some old mount board, which is really just cardboard, I suppose. It's like a step up from super heavy paper to cardboard, really. And I end up with loads of this stuff from various mounts I've cut in the past, or things other artists have gave me, because I will quite literally paint on anything most of the time. I did think about doing this in oils, because I do have some oil paints kicking about that I am kind of itching to use, but sticking to this being like a proof of concept to see what I can do with the exhibition and how I want to do the rest of it. I'm going to try a few different things. One of the things I've been wanting to do for a while is make my work more colourful. I find the palette I use tends to make everything look like it was painted 30 years ago. It just looks quite aged, and you know, I kind of like that aesthetic, but I want to do something a bit brighter, a bit more contemporary, I suppose. So I'm going to try a few new things. I am still going to use my trusty old heavy body acrylic. I tend to use Winsor & Newton stuff, just because I've always used it, really. I either use it in tubes or great big tubs like this. One thing I have noticed is, because I've been doing digital artwork for like the last 5 years, and the last time I did any serious body of painting was for my last exhibition 5 years ago, and the only paintings I've done since then have really only been the stuff I've done for this channel. A lot of the paint that I have is actually not great to work with. I think it's getting a bit old and a bit dried out. It's a bit stodgy. So I did pick up a little while ago these sort of Liquitex, I think that's how you say it, soft body acrylics, and I've heard good things about these, so I'm going to give them a go as well as using the heavy body stuff. Colour wise, I don't think I have too much of an idea, so I'm going to wing it and see what happens. So wish me luck, folks. So I've done my normal thing here where I've transferred the drawing to my board. The only thing I did slightly differently was I went over the character. Because he is quite small, I was hoping for the drawing to do a lot of the work, so I don't have to. As always, all I'm doing here is putting in the values. This is quite important. I did decide to do something slightly different in that I want to play around with the idea of temperature drawing attention to the character rather than just the composition. So that's why half the clouds are one colour and then another. The other thing is, I make a lot of mistakes in this video because, like I said, it's a while since I've done any painting. You saw me repaint that sky pink. That's because I totally forgot about the joys of doing an underpainting to get a nice feel across. The clouds, I think this painting was about 7 hours over about 2 and a bit sessions. I think I spent probably 85% of this painting just doing clouds. It certainly felt that way, though I'll be honest with you, I totally enjoyed it. I was very self-indulgent with painting clouds. At this point, I'm not really that bothered about the colour. I'm really just looking for temperature, so I'm sort of trying to build up a lot of warm colours. My plan is to put a wash over it to sort of change the colour. Part of it is because I don't know what colour it's going to be yet. The great thing about acrylics is you just paint over the top of it when it's dry, and it does dry quite quickly. So another thing I'm trying to do with this painting is actually remember how to paint. You know, it sounds silly, but those are skills that atrophy, and it takes me a little while, and I always recommend, if you haven't painted for a while, do a little test before you start. You can see I'm going in with the soft body acrylics now, and I have to say they are amazing. I highly recommend them to anybody. I will be getting some more. I'm going to bite the bullet and put in an art order of materials early next week. So yes, they are most definitely on the list. I was very impressed with those. I mentioned earlier that I didn't have much of a plan when it came to colour with this painting. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it can be problematic if you come to a painting and don't have a clue what to paint at all. But I feel with the drawing I'd solved a lot of the problems that could have reared their heads, so I wasn't too bothered about this. Also, I'm a big fan and believer in happy accidents, as Bob Ross calls them, which is where you make a mistake or something doesn't quite work the way you think it's going to, and so you end up adjusting things, and it's something you wouldn't have done normally had you planned a piece. So just to show you what a mess I make, I'll have to show you my painting clothes actually at some point, but you can see my hands look like I have been body painting and all sorts, not working on a tiny painting like this. Yeah, I think the best piece of advice I ever got told, certainly when I was a student, was don't give up on something halfway through. Make sure you finish it, which sounds really obvious, but there were several instances during this painting, particularly right at the start, and even right up until this point here, where I was thinking, oh no, I've made such a mess of this, I should really start again, this is terrible. And I just had to ignore that voice in my head and say, well, if it's a write-off, it's not the end of the world, you know what not to do next time, but just finish it, see how it ends up. And I think this is what I like about traditional work over digital, is that if I made a mistake on the computer, I could just Command Z it, and that mistake is gone. Whereas when it's on the page or on the board I'm painting on, I have to think on my toes. I have to think, how am I going to fix that? Am I going to paint over it? Am I going to leave it? Am I going to work around it? What's going to happen? What do I need to do to solve that problem? And for me, that's the real exciting, fun part about painting. I absolutely love it. And boy, did this one test me. The light on on those clouds in particular, which I'll talk about more in a second, but the ground, which I was putting off because I've said before, I absolutely hate painting grass. It's one of my least favourite things to paint. I put it off and off and off, and I think that's probably why I spent so long on the clouds. But I really felt at this stage I was getting that light right, when that sun just blasts that cloud. And I try a few different ways of painting grass. I go for a texture, and then I decide, okay, well let's paint them in sort of clumps, and that seemed to work. And I was quite surprised in comparison to the rest of the painting how quickly that worked and how effective it was, really. The other thing you can see is that I often paint over onto the tape that I've used to tape my surface down. That's because I want to create this idea that the world continues beyond the confines of that painting. I think once I'd gotten those rocks in, I started to feel a bit more confident about it, and I felt like the piece was pulling itself together. I generally paint from the back to the front, so the thing that's furthest away, normally the sky, I start with that and bring my way forward. But the rocks, just so I could see if the grass was working and how they looked in front of the clouds, really needed to get them done. And like I said, the character, I was hoping the pencil would do a lot of the work, so I still had a fair idea of what that fella looked like. I was really pleased. I had a couple of revelations throughout all of this with the lights on the clouds. I really wanted to hit that kind of when the sun's coming up and it just hits a big fluffy cloud with that bright contrast light, but also wanted to show those sort of darker clouds and the various different colours of clouds you get in the sky, as well as still keeping it quite stylized in the way that I do things. Working onto him, again, I had a vague idea of what colour things should be. I liked the idea that the scales on his armour and his sort of pauldron were made of brass. He was be wearing blue pants, and I think I was umming and ahhing for a long time whether his cape should be green or red, and I went for green in the end because I felt like there were quite a lot of reds in the clouds there, and I thought this would make him stand out a little bit. Again, used mostly soft body acrylics with a little bit of the heavier stuff mixed in, and absolutely brilliant. Loved it. You know, we'll be definitely using this again. You know, once that dried, I went in with some darker brownish blacks just to sort of bring attention to him a little bit. But yeah, quite happy with the way he turned out in the end. So towards the end of a painting session, there's always a temptation for me anyway to rush things a little bit, and this is one of the things I think I did to rush putting the stars in. You know, I did mask off an area, but normally I would, you know, paint the stars in rather than do that. But I was conscious of time, and you know, considering that I wasn't really thinking I was going to do anything with this piece, I thought, you know, we'll just do it that way, and I do go over them later on.
So after waiting for the painting to dry and peeling it off the board, I realised that, you know, the main character's arm that's furthest away from us is really in the wrong place. If I show you the drawing, it wasn't really that apparent on the drawing. I mean, now I'm looking at it, I can see it. It's like his arm's growing out of his ribs. But when I'd done the painting and it had dry, I thought, oh man, that looks really, really off. So all I did was I extended the cape a little bit and painted a little bit more orange into the clouds on that side. But partly because it was the end of the day and the sun had gone down rather dramatically, and the lighting I use in my studio is decent enough for painting, but a nightmare to film. That's something I really need to sort out, actually, if I'm going to be filming at night. So, yeah, I didn't film it, but, you know, that's the only real change I made. So there you go.
So that ended up being way more of an ordeal than I thought it was going to be. It's Sunday morning now. I've slept on this after finishing this yesterday, and actually I feel pretty good about it. You know, I feel like I've tried something new. I feel like it says what I want it to say. Stylistically, I'm comfortable with it. I think for the rest of the work I might lean ever so slightly into a little bit more realism in terms of faces and things like that, but in terms of trying to produce a work at this size, and you know, I don't think I'll be doing figures smaller than this. So in that regard, it's worked really well. Will it be part of the narrative? I don't know. Will it be part of the exhibition? Yes, probably. So the way I should look at this is really that's one painting down, and I've got like, what, 50 odd left to do? So that's not bad. Yeah, so join me next time where I will be going through more of the concept of what it is this narrative is going to be and how I'm going to plan this exhibition, as well as a bit more design work on this character and other characters that might appear in the exhibition / book, because I think I'm going to do a book as well. Alright folks, take care. Don't forget, if you like what you saw here, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, follow the journey, and I'll see you next time. Take it easy.